Hey, hey, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Am I live? Okay, now I'm live. Hey, everybody. How are you today? This is Sharika Matthews, your life coach, relationship expert, and creator of Feminine Success Mastery. Thank you guys so much for joining me here tonight for another live video. I know that we are in the evening and you're taking time out of your busy schedule to be here with me today. And for that, I am truly grateful and I am just excited to be here with you tonight. So if you don't know me or if you are new to me, again, my name is Sharika Matthews, and I work with high achieving women to help them create a successful and fulfilling life. But over the 5 years or so of working with women of different levels of success, I've come to realize that there is one thing that usually keeps women from feeling successful. And that one thing is having a successful relationship. So I work with women to help them answer the question, am I in the right relationship? And part of being in the right relationship is understanding vulnerability. Vulnerability has been a relationship buzzword over the last couple of years, and it's cool that people are more aware of vulnerability and that they need it, but it leaves me wondering is if vulnerability is overrated. My concern is that we have put so much emphasis on being vulnerable, and few people really understand what it means to be vulnerable and the risks associated with being vulnerable and how to protect themselves from those risks of being vulnerable because it is pretty scary to put yourself out there. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about tonight. I'm going to talk to you about what is vulnerability, what are the risks of being vulnerable, and how to protect yourself from those risks so that you can really answer for yourself. Is vulnerability overrated? Is it worth it to put yourself out there and be vulnerable? And I'm doing this and I want to answer these questions for you because action without understanding can lead to disaster. And that's what's happening in a lot of relationships right now is that a lot of people, men and women, are doing things to be vulnerable, so they think, in their relationships, and it's not working out for them. And so it leaves them hurt, it leaves them disappointed, it leaves them feeling betrayed in a sense. And so they're asking themselves, is it worth it? Is vulnerability overrated? So to jump into this topic, let's define vulnerability. What is vulnerability? The textbook definition of vulnerability is making yourself susceptible to harm or to pain. Making yourself susceptible to harm or to pain. I don't know about you, but doesn't that sound a little scary? Doesn't it sound almost ridiculous for me to tell you, hey, go and be vulnerable in your relationship and put yourself out there to be hurt, put yourself out there to experience pain, and put yourself out there to be wounded? That doesn't sound like something that I particularly want to do. And I don't know about you. If you want to be hurt, if you want to be, have your heart broken or be in pain, leave a comment in the comments because I'm pretty sure ain't nobody really looking to do that, right? But that's no difference to me than me telling you to go stand out in the middle of the highway where the speed limit is 70 miles per hour and there's going to be a 99% chance that you're going to get hit by a car going 85 miles per hour. Because you get hit by a car standing in the middle of the highway, you're going to get hurt, you're going to be injured, and heaven forbid, but you may even die as a result of that. Who in their right mind would really want to do that? But that's exactly what we do. When we go into our relationships and attempt to be vulnerable, we're taking a huge risk because we really don't understand what it means to be vulnerable and what that looks like. And so we place ourselves in harm's way of getting our emotions hurt or putting ourselves in harm's way of getting betrayed by those who are close to us, all because we don't really understand what it means. And so a couples counselor, her name is Gwendolyn Nelson Terry. She defines vulnerability as allowing your partner to know you fully, to know your thoughts, to know your feelings, to know your challenges, and to know your weaknesses. I'm going to repeat that. You're being vulnerable, according to a couples counselor, Gwendolyn Nelson Terry. It means to allow your partner to know you fully, to know your thoughts, to know your feelings, to know your challenges, and to know your weaknesses. Now, that should take your level of vulnerability, your understanding of vulnerability to another level. Being vulnerable means specifically to make yourself available to one person or a group of people specifically. Let them know your thoughts, your feelings, your challenges, and your weaknesses. But what does that really mean? What does that really mean to say that I'm going to share with you my thoughts, my feelings, my challenges, and my weaknesses? You know, why would I want to do that? Why would I want to show such an in-depth view of who I am? And the answer is simple. The answer is because you want intimacy. Not only do you want intimacy, you actually need intimacy. According to psychology today, intimacy intimacy adds to the overall well-being of your life. Without intimacy, you will not have a high quality of life. So you need intimacy. Having intimate relationships allows you to feel connected, allows you to increase your feelings of self-worth, and it actually regulates your mood. And I laugh when I say that because I never thought about intimacy as a way to regulate your mood. But when you think about it, when you have a healthy, intimate relationship with someone and you know how to share your thoughts, your feelings, your weaknesses, and your challenges in a healthy way, you're kind of even keeled. You feel happy, you feel safe, you feel valued, you feel heard. It is funny because as I'm saying this out loud, isn't this exactly what we're fighting for in the Black Lives Movement and in the equality movement and in the civil rights movement in general? That is exactly what we're fighting for. So your intimate relationships actually ends up reflecting itself in how we show up in the real world. I just made that connection, y'all. So if you're still with me, why don't you type in the comments you're still with me? Okay? So, having those intimate relationships is a necessity of life. How many of you actually knew that? How many of you actually knew that intimacy and vulnerability is a necessity of life? But here's the mistake that I see people make. People mistake sharing your thoughts, your feelings, your challenges and your struggles. Hey, Angela, thank you. Uh, Sharing your struggles, they mistake that for an excuse to emotionally dump. Think about that emotional dump. Hey, Ray, thank you for joining me here tonight. So, I want you to hear this and hear me well. Emotional dumping is not being vulnerable. Emotional dumping does not create intimacy. What do I mean by emotional dumping? Emotional dumping looks like you just saying everything that comes to your mind exactly when you think it, sharing your feelings exactly when you're feeling it, sharing all of your challenges and start complaining about every single thing that happens in your life. It's oversharing. It is literally dumping all of your thoughts, all of your feelings, all of your concerns, dumping everything on a person. That is emotional dumping. Now compare that to being vulnerable. See, being vulnerable requires intention. Being vulnerable requires responsibility. That means, yes, you share your feelings and you share your emotions with the intent of allowing someone to better understand who you are and why you are the way you are. You share the challenges that you've had growing up with the intention of allowing someone to understand you better, to understand why you move the way you move today. Vulnerability is sharing the challenges and sharing the mistakes that you've made to communicate to someone that while I may be your Superman or while I may be your Superwoman 99% of the time, I am still human. You see, that is vulnerable. That's a difference between emotional dumping and vulnerability. And this is the mistake that people are making in their relationships. They're emotionally dumping on their partner, whether it's your romantic partner, it could be your parent or a sibling, it could be a best friend. You're emotionally dumping on someone and then get angry with them because they're not able to handle that emotional dump. When in reality, you've turned them into an emotional trash can. And that's not fair to you and it's not fair to them. So hear me well. Vulnerability is being intentional about sharing the information that needs to be shared that allows the person you're talking to and in communication with to understand you on a deeper level. It's peeling back the layers to share those parts of you with someone that you don't really share with the general public, to share those parts of you that will help someone to really understand, and not even just understand, but to feel and to become connected to your heart. Feel and become connected to the essence of who you are. That is what being vulnerable is all about. And so, and so I want you to really take a moment and reflect on how you show up in your relationships, right? When it comes to being vulnerable and sharing those intimate thoughts, how are you doing it? Are you just kind of vomiting up on somebody, or do you stop and say, okay, I'm thinking this and I'm feeling this? And like, let me give you an example for me. So for me, before I talk to someone, especially with my guy, and he'll tell you this all the time, I'm a thinker. I always think before I speak because I want to make sure that the words that are coming out of my mouth are intentional. I want to make sure that the words that are coming out of my mouth are going to be helpful more than it's going to be hurtful. So when I share parts of my life and my stories and the things that make Sharika tick, I do it with the intention of getting or of making us closer. And so there are going to be times when you may need to vent. We all need to vent every once in a while. And so that's what those intimate relationships are for. But when you have created this level of vulnerability with someone that you know, that you trust, then it makes that he can open up that space and hold the space for you to vent when you need to vent, to listen when you need someone to listen, to be there to hold your hand when you need someone to hold their hand. But you have to create this atmosphere of vulnerability, create this atmosphere of letting him in or letting her in little by little, day by day, so that he can really hear you and understand you and know how to be there for you when you need him. So ask yourself, how am I showing up in my relationships? Am I being vulnerable? Am I pulling back the layers? Or am I still hiding myself from someone? Because that's what it is. Vulnerability is the opposite of hiding. You know, sometimes when we're just now getting to know someone and we're dating or we're just exploring a friendship, we tend to hide certain parts of us, right? And we hide certain parts of us because we want to make sure that before I begin to reveal my crazy to you, or I begin to reveal the not so known parts of me, I want to make sure you can handle it. I want to make sure that you're worthy. Or some people continue to hide those parts of them because they simply don't trust anybody. You know, a few days ago, I did another video on whether or not you have trust issues because some of us we don't trust anybody. Let's be real, we don't trust anybody or we trust everybody. We trust everybody, we tell everybody everything. And that is what puts you in that position of being hurt. Or we don't trust anybody and we lack those intimate relationships, and then we begin to feel isolated. We begin to feel like an outcast. We begin to feel lonely, if you will. But when you are able to create those intimate relationships from a healthy place, then you'll begin to see your entire life, the quality of your life really begin to increase. You begin to flourish. You begin to really like and visually I'm thinking of like a flower that's beginning to bloom, or a tree that's beginning to grow strong and tall and beginning to bear fruit. That is what vulnerability would do for you and do for your relationship. So when it comes to vulnerability, we know that there are risks associated with vulnerability, right? We know that there's a risk of being hurt, there's a risk of being betrayed, there's a risk of of just getting taken advantage of, right? So, but I'm not going to go into all of the risks that you take by being vulnerable. What I want to discuss is how do you protect yourself from being hurt? How do you protect yourself from being taken advantage of? How do you protect yourself from being disappointed? And the answer is simple. You just have to be vulnerable with someone that you trust. Trust and vulnerability goes hand in hand. And and that is something that we don't often make the connection to. You have to learn to trust. You have to learn to get over your own trust issues, or learn to stop trusting everybody with everything and rein it in, so that you know who to trust and when to trust. And that is something that I teach in my upcoming masterclass called Overcoming Trust Issues. We go over what it means to be trusting. How do you build up that trust, and how do you learn to trust again? And we will talk about the steps that you take in order to identify who you need to trust, how much, what can you trust them with, and how much can you trust them with. Because without understanding who you need to trust and what you can trust them with, you're going to find yourself in a disastrous situation. You're going to find yourself always getting your feelings hurt. You're going to find yourself being angry and distrustful of everybody because you were simply vulnerable with the wrong people. So when you learn how to trust and who to trust and when to trust, because let me tell you this, trusting the wrong person can be just as bad as trusting the right person at the wrong time. I'll say that again. Trusting the wrong person can be just as bad as trusting the right person at the wrong time. So you want to be able to identify the right people to trust and when to trust them, so that you can protect yourselves from the vulnerabilities of being from the risk, I'm sorry, of being hurt. And this is not to say that when you learn to trust and how to trust, that you'll never get hurt again, because we all get taken by the okey doke, okay? I have been taken by the okey doke. And so, what you'll be able to do is protect yourselves from the people who really are intentional about hurting you. Protect yourself from the people who are intentional about taking advantage of you, protecting yourself. There have been times in my life where I simply trusted the wrong people with the wrong thing. And what I'm thinking about is, for example, the relationship I had with my ex-husband. I trusted him, but he was not able to be vulnerable with me. Instead of being vulnerable with me and sharing his thoughts, sharing his feelings, sharing his challenges, and sharing his mistakes, instead of doing all of that, he lied. He dressed up himself and his life as this perfect life, or close to perfect life. He dressed himself up as a Superman. And at the end, one of the reasons why we ended up in divorce is because he was not truthful, was because he was not able to be vulnerable with me. And so he had trust issues coming into the relationship I had no idea about. And while I was being vulnerable with him, he was able to take advantage of me and hurt me and disappoint me, all because he was not able to be vulnerable with himself and with me, and he was not able to open up and create a healthy relationship. And this is why I want you to be very clear on what it is to be vulnerable. Be very clear on why you should be vulnerable, and be very clear on who you should be vulnerable with. Because if you don't, if you're always hiding from yourself or hiding yourself from other people, you're always showing a good face but not really showing the real you, and allowing people to get to know you in a deeper way, you're not going to be happy. You're not going to have a high quality of life, and you're going to create an isolation for yourself. So my advice to you is threefold. Number one, Learn how to trust and who to trust. Number two, be intentional about creating intimacy through vulnerability. That sounds a little sexy when I say that, right? Intimacy through vulnerability. Learn to do that. And then number three, most importantly, create intimacy through vulnerability with yourself. You see, you can't be vulnerable with anybody until you're vulnerable with yourself, until you are conscious of your own thoughts, conscious of your own feelings, conscious of your own challenges, and conscious of your own weaknesses. If you are not vulnerable with yourself and able to peel back the layers and really see you for who you are, you can't create an intimate relationship with anyone else. All right, you guys. So thank you so much for joining me here tonight. If you have any questions or comments, leave a comment below in the comment section. And as always, if you have something that you want to ask me, but you don't want it for the public eye to know, send me a DM and let's have a conversation about that. If you are interested in learning more about how to overcome your trust issues, I want you to go and check out my masterclass, bit.ly/trust issues 101. I'll put the link in the comments for this video and I'll probably add it to the description as well if you want to check it out. All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining me here tonight, and I'll see you here again tomorrow night at 9 p.m. All right, you guys, thank you so much, and you guys have a great night. Bye bye.